Well, hello everyone, and welcome again to Hands Across the Water. Hope you're keeping well. I won't be silly enough to ask you to just have a good weekend because I'm sure you didn't after that yesterday. But Baz, I'll ask you first anyway. How are you keeping today?
Yeah, I think it's a somber day. We were just chatting there between ourselves, and it feels like we've just had a loss. That's that sort of sick churning you have in your stomach today, isn't it? It's going to be a long, a long show, this one. But apart from that, I'm okay.
Yeah, it's one of those ones, Marcus, isn't it? Listen, let's be honest. When the dust settles on the other side of the city, yes, they'll have one over us on the day, but it's no good for either old firm teams, really, is it, mate? It's we threw it away. Obviously, we'll get into all that, but apart from that, how are you keeping it? We got Shanklin back again. He says, "Delighted with the draw." I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are. Worked for you, mate. Well, so Marcus, how are you keeping, buddy? Before we get all into it, mate.
Yeah, busy day today. Really echo what Baz says. It was a bizarre game, almost a role reversal of Parkhead, where we were appalling in the first half and very good in the second. And it was a role reversal, but unfortunately, we didn't get the win. So we didn't lose the game, but it certainly feels like it. So, yeah, a real disappointment.
Yes, it was, especially how we started. Well, as I say, we done our wee live show, which was absolutely fantastic. So we'll talk about positives first. So the live show we done before the game was absolutely fantastic. The amount of new members and stuff we got, people coming in and gifting memberships and stuff. So that was all amazing. We were happy to, and evening to you, Bold and Blue, another great Rangers podcast, by the way, guys, if you want to check them out. Um, so we went in, we're like, right, we've got the team that we're sort of wanted. I know there was one change, I think, was I wanted the Olsen and you guys wanted someone different, but it was in and around what we all sort of wanted, if we're being honest. It started off Baz so well. The first half, I thought we were up for it all. From the very start, every second ball, all headers, and anything that went up high towards our defense or even in the midfield. Well, like say Chukwani or Fernandez were header and everything, and the pressure was on them. Mickey Moore was playing fantastic. Nadiri was around him like a flip me. He's just a cracking wee player. I know we'll talk later. Maybe he gasses out a wee bit at the minute, unfortunately. 60 minutes, you see he gets tired, but that's because of what he offers you at the start of the game. Um, and Rangers were absolutely fantastic. The first goal for Chimity was as good as a goal you'll ever see in any Old Firm game, as good as I've ever seen. And we're all Rangers fans. We've watched Old Firm goals, even when we haven't been alive. We've watched far back, even ones that have been years and years and years ago. And for me, that's up there with as good as I've ever seen, especially in my lifetime anyway. And then again, the second goal, it felt like we're under pressure again. They were making it was them that were making the mistakes in defence and not us for once, which was great to see. And another bit of play by Chermity again, fantastic. Nicks the ball away, 2-0 up, you're bouncing, you're going, flip me, this could be three, this could be four, it could be any score. So first half, Baz, what was your thoughts? As I say, we'll get into the first half, then we'll talk about the collapse in a second. But in that first half, Baz, you couldn't have asked for more.
The first half was probably the best first half I've seen Rangers play all season. They were really, really good. The intensity was high. They were certainly well up for the battle ahead. You know, you talk about second balls. We were winning every second ball. It was constant. I mean, every player was playing at the top of their game in the first half. Them all. Obviously, the two goals from Chimity. The first goal will go into old firm folklore. I mean, it's going to be remembered for decades. It's an absolute screamer. But the main thing for me was Mickey Moore was running the show. Mickey Moore was absolutely fantastic. Every time he got the ball, he was beating his man. He was creating space. He was using the other players around him. He was absolutely fantastic. That's the best half I've seen Mickey Moore play at Rangers as well. The crowd was up for it. The goals were there. Everything was set in a plate. And I was thinking, because we had a great podcast just before, and I was thinking, you know what? The mood's good, the fans are good, the players are reacting, the players are playing fantastic, and even Raskin was playing well. Chukwani was playing well. Nadiri, as you say, was running his legs out. And we had this conversation before when Nadiri and Chermeti are playing together. That space they create causes havoc with defenders. I mean, it's so evident in the first half. Celtic could not get anywhere near us, nowhere near us in the first half. I was very, very pleased getting into half time. It was one of them games, William, that when you're on the ascendancy, it's one of them games where you don't want the half to end. You don't want a break. You just want it to keep going. And we'll talk obviously more about what happened in the second half slightly later. But it's so difficult to talk about a great half like that and what eventually happened. Actually, I'm still in disbelief of what actually happened at the end of it. But I mean, the first 45 minutes were fantastic. Sterling was fantastic. Every player they on was fantastic.
I went on mute there again. Sorry, guys. I'm not with it today at all. Um, so we'll stick with the first half, Marcus, as I say, before we get into the second. We'll try and break this up because we are going to give Rangers a lot of, there's going to be a lot of negativity as well, unfortunately, because that's what happens when you don't get the result you want. But we'll talk about the positives first. And the first half, Marcus, what did you think watching it? You must have been happy with that, mate, as everybody else was,
Yeah, I thought the pace which we were passing the ball forward. There were overlaps. We only had 7 attempts, but we were really clinical, scoring 2 of them. We struck the post again, if you remember. That's often been overlooked with a cross. And I just thought that they just weren't in the game. I thought it was the best half of football I've seen Rangers play this season, let alone under Danny Rowe. I thought it was fantastic. And, it goes and proves what we can do. And I'm not surprised that Celtic came back in the second half. We're obviously going to talk about that in a minute. But nevertheless, I thought, right, if we can just continue that with changes in the second half, then, we ought to go and win the game. I still didn't think that 2-0 was a winnable score, but the way that we played was fantastic. And I think also the new signing, so to speak, made a real difference, which was really encouraging. And I agree with what you guys have said. I thought Dion Sterling really showed, what a great player he is, both in attack and defence.
Yeah. No, as I say, in my opinion, just a bit, I'll go through my opinions and stuff, the same as you guys. I thought were absolutely fantastic in that first half. I really did. And I done the silly thing. I done something that I promised myself that I would not do again with this team this season. So when Rangers got into that Motherwell game, we scored, went 1-0 up, and obviously capitulated at the end against the 10-man Motherwell team. I said, right, that's it. I'm not getting excited about Rangers again. I'll just see how they get on. And then we beat Hearts, and then I was like, we're back. Got ahead of myself, and then Levy. And then I done the same, and as me right, I'm definitely not getting over the head, because they let you down so much. And I done again the same yesterday at halftime because I thought we really have cracked the code here. We've really, the mentality things are. And then we capitulated again, and it's got this stage now where I'm like, it's so up and so down. But if you want to be champions, you can't have that. You need to be consistent, and that's something that we are not. We definitely are not. We don't lose many games. We really don't. You can see that in the league, but we don't win near enough, and unforgivable for me not to win that game from that 2-0 that we went up. And I get what Marcus, you said. And listen, I turned to someone at halftime. I was watching the match yesterday. Here's me 2-0, and I don't like 2-0. Never like the 2-0 scoreline. Here's me because it only takes one goal to start, and straight away, early on, then you're in trouble. The rest of the game, you're the one that's worrying, and unfortunately, that seemed to be the case. So the second half, Baz started. Martin O'Neill, as we know, wily old fox, knows exactly how to play these games, has done it time and time again. He made changes. He done the right thing for me by taking Maeda away from Sterling, because Sterling schooled him the whole game, as he always does when he's up against them. Played him more through the middle role to give himself an out ball to keep Maeda away from Sterling and face him a wee bit more towards Suter, which is for me is an easier matchup for the likes of Maeda. Hatate come on in the midfield, the boss of the midfield for them. So he made changes and thought, like, this is what I'm going to do. So it was up to Danny Rule then, first 5-10 minutes to maybe look at that and go, right, here's what I need to do to change it. Now, to be fair, I would say maybe the first 5 minutes in the second half, Baz, we did start actually not too bad. Romans was unlucky, could have maybe done a wee bit better, but it was unlucky. He could have scored another 3-0. 3-0, then it's over. Unfortunately for us, it didn't happen. And then that was it, Baz. From that 5 minutes at the start, Celtic owned the rest of that game completely. I can't believe I'm saying I can't believe it happened, but Baz, it did. I don't know what you thought. We'll ask yourself and Marcus after you what you thought we should have done. What did we do wrong? Was it Danny Rule's tactics? Was it players on the pitch not doing enough? Or what was your thoughts, Baz, as the collapse started to happen in front of our eyes?
Well, what you seen what you seen yesterday was you seen the very best of Rangers, and then you seen the very worst in the same game, and it was like a light. It was like somebody switching a light. You see the first 5 minutes in the second half, it looked like we were going to do what we did in the first half. We were energetic. We were straight on the ball. We were making forward runs. It looked like we could go and try and get the third goal. And I think Danny Rule slightly banked on that. I think he thought if we can start the second half quickly, now the third goal very quickly, the game is over. Now, that didn't happen. Now, the subs that Martin O'Neill brought on, it was always going to take them 5 or 10 minutes to get into the game, because they hadn't played. They were just brought on at half time, so it was just going to take a wee bit of time for them to settle. The problem is when they did settle, you're right, they did run the show. They absolutely run the show. I hate saying it, but it's the truth. And it's so disappointing when you see Rangers do that, because it's not the first time this season we have done that. It's not the first time in recent weeks where we have regressed into sitting back and allowing teams to press us and putting ourselves under massive pressure. It happened in the second half. It happened for at least 35 to 40 minutes. Absolutely crazy. A game that we were completely dominating, 2-0 up. And by the way, 2 fantastic goals. I mean, absolute cracking goals. That the scene was set, everything was there, and then it just went to pot so quickly. Certain players in the pitch regressed awfully. The midfield was nowhere to be seen. They weren't winning second balls. We weren't winning even balls up into the forwards areas. They weren't winning balls anymore. Mickey Moore had went quiet because he wasn't getting the players around him weren't creating the space for him to play nice balls, and he could attack the far end. Then you start to notice that Ibrox getting a lot quieter, a lot more nervous. The fans are starting to see Rangers slip back into that old mold that we've been seeing them against Livingston, against Motherwell, where we've dropped big points. And we're all feeling the same thing, especially when they get the first goal. The first goal is crucial for them, and that gets the support on their side. That gets the players rallied up. That gets them wanting to attack us even more. And unfortunately for us, the second half was an absolute nightmare. It was so poor. And I'll reiterate it with him again. 2 sides to Rangers yesterday, the very best and the very worst.
Oh, you're so right. That's depressing to listen to, Baz. Stop giving us these home truths, please. But yes, no, seriously, and this is what I just want to make a point on one thing you said, Baz, before I go to Marcus. And I know there's so much to talk about, so I'm trying not to stay on one subject too long. Yeah. But the fans were, and I've seen some fans saying, Ibrox was too negative. I've heard Danny Rule before saying, why was everyone getting angry when they were only 1-0 up against Kilmarnock and all in the boot? And I was like, Danny, thinking to myself, you don't understand, mate. You think there's not a mentality problem at this club? We know there is. We've been there. We have done it. We have seen it season after season where they collapse at the wrong time all the time. And that's why there's a nervousness in the support. And there's why when they see Celtic starting to go on the ascendancy, like normal fans, you'd be going, no, but they're going to get a couple of minutes, but we'll be fine. But we know this team, when they're under the pressure, can collapse. We see it happening, and we've seen that. Marcus, I thought yesterday made it. As I say, I'm going to ask you the same. But what do you think? It was tactical? Did you think it was players in the pitch, or a bit of everything? But that's why Danny Rule needs to understand. I know why he's coming across saying defending the mentality, and I can't see why the support sometimes are so nervous. But that's the reason why. It's because we've lived through it. He's not been here that long enough probably to know it. Remember Barry Ferguson. Let's not forget, guys. Barry Ferguson, when Kilmarnock went 3-0 up and we went 3 each, and he came out and goes, "That's it. Don't question the mentality. And my players, they proved so much. They didn't win a game at Ibrox for the guy. Do you know what I mean? So we've seen it. We've done it. A lot of managers have. I feel like Clement defended the mentality of his players. Other managers have done it. But let's be honest, the same players and the same senior players go missing when the times get tough at Ibrox, and that's something we need to rectify. I know this is for an show, but that's something we definitely need to rectify for next season. We need a few guys with grey hairs in that team, guys that have been over the course, guys who know who can grab the rest of the team and say, "Here, get your heads together. Here, let's calm it down. Let's not have Jack Butland smashing balls up, shiting himself basically for the whole second half and smashing balls up because he doesn't trust his players to play because he's seen them collapsing so many times. So he just wants the ball smashed out of the park. So that's something we need to sort out. We can't sort it. We couldn't sort it all out in January. I understand that. But it's definitely something we need going forward. We need heads on that team that know what they're doing and can calm it down and keep resistance because we've seen Rangers collapse, I guess, too much. Sorry for going off on a bit of rant on you there, Marcus, but I just thought I'd get me being the host. I can't always say too much, but I thought I'd go off on a rant and leave the rest to you guys tonight. But yes,
yeah, I think there was tactical regression. I think it was blindingly obvious Celtic would come back, and as you've alluded to, Hatate on Maeda playing more in a central role, and suddenly McGregor, you realise that he was actually on the pitch. So there was always going to be more pressure. But the thing that disappoints me was somebody like Stephen Davis, for instance, in a game like that, you just grab hold of the game, grab hold of the rest of the players by the scruff of the neck and say, look, we're not bothered about scoring, but we've just got to keep possession. And it just seems to me that it's probably echoing what you've said, William, that we do lack, I think the squad's improved, but we do lack experience, in my opinion, in the back four and in midfield, particularly around sort of number 6. So irrespective of any tactical things, I just think we were found out, and I think the confidence went. And to be fair to Celtic, they played well, but I think we made it very easy for them, to be honest. So I think there was that. Baz has touched on it. I think physically the players put the effort, and we've heard a lot about sports science at the club, people playing only certain minutes, this, that and the other. But as far as I'm concerned, if I'm sitting in front of a monitor with a GPS and somebody's got a GPS vest and you can see that they're absolutely knackered, then when we've only used 2 substitutes, I just don't get that. Even if the individual players that came on, you could say, are they going to make too much difference? I just think there'll be fresh legs there. And that surprised me. I'm a big supporter of Danny Roll, but I thought it was the right thing to bring Dio on. So in effect, we would go 4-3-2-1. Although it was 9 minutes after the first goal, I think that was a pretty decent decision. But then that was an instance in which I think the players let themselves down because that should have worked to a degree, and I don't think it did. So that was disappointing. I don't think you can blame somebody like Nadiri or Chukwani although Chukwani stayed on the field, because they absolutely ran their socks off, didn't they? So I think it was a combination of some slow reaction in substitutions, lack of leadership, and because of the lack of the changes, I just think physically we just ran out of gas. And I just think that those 3 variables added up together, and we'll look at the stats. I mean, we can see in the naked eye the difference, but if we actually have a look at that in a minute, I think it actually says why we just capitulated. I'll quickly go through now. Shall I, William? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say it's a good time to bring it up because I say we're bringing it all in anyway now. I mean, that's we've talked about the first half. We'll talk, as I say, the second half. Yeah. So we'll let Baz come in, Marcus, after you stop talking and let us know what you think through the stats bit, and then Baz can have a chat as well and what he thinks from it.
Yeah, so my point of view here, I mean, I don't want to get transfixed with stats, but sometimes these things do help. And what I tried to do here is forget the bottom panel. So Rangers, so literally your first half and second half figures, if you like. And again, we haven't gone into the nth degree. They're what I would call plain vanilla stats that are relevant. And if we've improved on them, on the right hand side, it's going to be green. But as you can see, we didn't have as much possession in the second half, not as many shots on target. Our pass completion was very, very low. And I think I'm going to pick up on what Baz says last week. It was probably lower than that because some of those were just 10-meter passes, weren't they? So that's actually not a great indictment. So you can see there in the various regressions that panel is actually red. So in crude terms, we've just put ourselves under a lot of pressure. And conversely, unfortunately, you look at the role reversal there, and Celtic have come up a green because they've improved. Possession is so, but I mean that's remarkable. 15 shots on target is just remarkable. The difference, shots on target, and then general pass completion was better. So we haven't lost the game, we've drawn it, but from besides the naked eye, when you actually look at those, then it's alarming, the regression from the first half to the second.
So, Baz, what's your thoughts on that, mate? To me, I know Danny Rose did say after the match, Baz, that it's he's not having any questions on the players' mentality and stuff. So if it's not mentality, it's tactics. So which one is it? Or is it both?
Well, who knows? But when you look at those stats, it's the second half's incredible. That the difference is absolutely unbelievable, especially for a team that went in the first half playing so well. And by the way, started the first 5 minutes so well as well. It's not like we started the second half under the cosh, but that's not the case. We actually went forward as soon as the whistle went. We went forward and tried to create within 5 minutes. So I would actually say when you look at that second half, it's probably 40 minutes rather than 45 with those bad stats. Mentality can only be questioned within the individual player. You can't get into a player's head. What you can do is see the how a player drops form in the second half. Like Nico Rasmussen's pass completion in the second half was awful. John Suter, I think the only player that was passing quite well at one point was Sterling. So yeah, it's worrying. My worry is why can't we get a team together that can play so well in 45 minutes, not do it in the second half? Why can they not do it? And let's remember. But let's remember, William, they also played a game on the Thursday night. I mean, they were away in Germany. They had an extra game. And we looked in the second half, the tired team. It looked like we had a trip to the Karabag or somewhere, and we had a long journey back, and the players were drained. But you know what I mean? And that's the way it looked. If you look at their team in the second half, their energy levels were way higher. Yes, they made more substitutions, and that did help. But there was also the desire to win. They wanted that game. They wanted to win that game, and it looked for us in the second half that we thought that the job was done, and it clearly wasn't. It's the stats are crazy.
Well, the thing for me is, Marcus, as you make a point there as well, mate. Baz, I'll ask Baz the same. 16. So they had one shot into the first half, and then obviously the second half they're saying 16, 15 on target. So if you've only made 2 substitutions there, that doesn't make sense to me. Why weren't we changing up a wee bit more to try and stem this? Why did we sit there for nearly 40 minutes? Letting ourselves get absolutely pummeled, waiting for the inevitable, and I can understand, maybe if you made 5 changes, you were doing all different things and changing this up and changing that up. But this whole, Butland just launching it to anywhere, it wasn't even to Chermiti, it was just the anywhere, and keeping Chermiti on, who we know is no good on his own. How many times do we need to see it? A Chermiti, and guys, and anyone watching, you can call me out on this if you think I'm wrong. But anytime we see a front 3 of Chermiti in the middle on his own, Mikey Moore playing the left wing where he's not as good for me, and Gassama playing on the right wing where he's nowhere near as good as he is on his left, is always awful. If we had seen that team starting that game, we'd have been going mad as a support. So why did he persist with that so long in the second half, even though he knows it doesn't work? Why did he try it? You know what I mean? And a part of me is going, well, you know, if you're going to take off in the dairy, which is fair enough, you think he's gassed out, then maybe put on your Barami, as Barry was saying earlier. You know, someone who can nullify their midfield, who's done it time and time again, the McGregor, and then have the likes of a Mioski or whatever, just being a runner, just, you know, wherever, and having Trimidi up there. The press was all gone. I think Trimidi was getting annoyed a few times looking where his help was, but it just wasn't there. There was, you know, and we let ourselves just rinse and repeat until we gave away the result, basically, in the end, Marcus.
Yeah, Trimidi, you can't fault his work rate even when he's by himself, but he just has to come back further and further, and then you can see the passes in midfield are going sideways and back, and as a result, we're just regressing further back towards our goal, and no outlet whatsoever. So that's why I just don't understand it, and even at the extent in which what's the word I'm looking for? Even at the extent, if you don't want players to come on for the sake of it, but if it just adds a bit of energy sometimes, as long as it's working within a framework, that can make the opposition think they're not on a roll, and as a result, can completely change the game. And they're also negating the fact that some of the players are clearly fatigued. So I just don't understand. I don't like substitutions for the sake of it, incidentally, but I think in that game it needed a change of shape or change of energy, and we really saw neither. And Gassama came on the right hand side of the field, which I didn't understand. You guys made a good point off air and thought that was potentially to try and negate them, but they were attacking us there. But I felt that we had a reasonably strong bench. I think we spoke about that on Saturday, that with the 4 new players coming in, we've got to improve the squad for next season. But there's still some really good players there that can come in. And I was just really disappointed that we just used the 2 substitutes.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, there's sort of this question: if we lose on Saturday, does Danny Rose survive? Well, he does, because for me, all I say is this, guys. That's only my point of view. Is we've rinsed and repeat this so many times. Sunday the game is. But we've rinsed and repeated this so many times. We've got rid of so many. It never works. Now, one thing for me is, let's be honest, Danny Rule has managed 119 games. Rangers play more than that in 2 seasons when we're in Europe and stuff. We get Rangers Football Club can hit bang out 119 games in 2 seasons, easy peasy. So it's not a long time being a management, but he has been with a lot of big managers in the past, working under them. But the difference is, you know, you can't. The only way to gain experience, Baz, is by going through the games and going through things like it's like anything in life, and looking at it and going, where did I go wrong and how did I do better there? And the likes of Martin O'Neill, who again we're going to say has been over the course, has done it that many times. But for me, I'll be looking more for, right, okay, well, what did you learn from that game, and how are you going to stop it for this game? Because again, we can't really start with a forward 3 because it doesn't work. He's going to have to play 2 up front again for me. But again, when Martin O'Neill rings changes, or Martin O'Neill makes those changes even before, he mightn't even wait to the second half of his time. He might just say, well, that's the team to counter them. You know what I mean? He might do that from the start in Sunday's game, Baz. So it's going to be, Danny Rood's going to have to learn and try and find out over this next week, how can he counteract and not have Celtic coming at Ibrox Park in one half and having 16 shots on hard goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And he also needs the players to stand up to be counted as well. I mean, we talked about Diamandi getting substituted on there. You know, Danny Roll hasn't trusted Diamandi to go onto the pitch and do a specific job. Diamandi failed to do it. And that's on Diamandi as well, because Diamandi doesn't repay the favour that Danny Roll gives him of putting him in a big game like that by putting in a good performance. Diamandi didn't do that. Now, we can argue all day whether, you know, Danny Rose should have brought Barami in, or whether he maybe should have brought in, you know, put Giga on, maybe played Giga and put him into a back 3 and put the 2 fullbacks slightly higher to give Trimidi a bit more support when Nadiri come off. We could, it's all ifs and buts. What I would say is, you know, Danny Roll, I'm not even going down that road with Danny Roll, whether he should be here or not. And I just don't think that's even worth talking about at the minute. Danny Roll hasn't heard an awful team, and he's tried to make it. And considering where we were and where we've got to, is quite incredible. Yes, I'm not denying the last 4 or 5 games have been slightly worrying with the players and how they've responded to certain games. I get that. But I've seen enough signs with Donny, and especially the new players that he's brought in. If he gets a good summer and a good proper pre-season with these guys, let's not forget, Danny Rule came into this club during season. Danny Rule hasn't even had a pre-season with these boys yet, and Danny Rule is learning and learning and learning every week. We can. I will judge Danny Rule next season. That has to be done. The guy needs a proper pre-season and bring in the players that he really wants. And hopefully next season will be a really big season for us. By the way, we're not out of the title race yet. Yes, I don't think we can afford to lose any more points. I think if we do, we're definitely all right. But there's we've talked about Motherwell. There's big games against Hearts. There's Lemons again. We've still to play. So there is points up for grabs. Things can change. Am I fully optimistic after yesterday and a few games that we've played? Probably not so much. But I'm definitely not going down to Danny Rule in terms of his job. I don't think it's the right time. I don't think it helps Rangers at the minute, the manager or the players even talking like that, and that's just a personal opinion.
Yeah, but it's like anything, Marcus. It's going to happen, isn't it? Like I know none of us here are calling for Danny Rule's head. I know that, but I'm saying there is going to be fans out there who we just that's just Rangers though. But that's the pressure of being at Rangers, isn't it? But sorry, Marcus, you go on what you're going to say there.
Sorry, yeah, I was just going to say I want to get something straight. I'm a big supporter of Danny Role. He's averaging 2.2 points a game. He's won 76% of his games. We have drawn too many. I think he's inherited a very poor side, and it's a discussion for another day. But I'll be very interested on another podcast, maybe at the end of the season, if he's inherited a worse team than Steven Gerrard did. So I think he will do really well. It's just the frustration in that one game. I thought there were mistakes, to be honest, as simple as that. But I think in the long run, I think what he's done to turn around a completely dysfunctional team, as Baz has said, there's 4 players there. 3 of them in particular have really hit the ground running. Hopefully the 4th, Olsen, will by the end of the season. So I think that he's going to be a good manager for us. But I think, as you say, William, being a Rangers manager is a position of extreme pressure. It really is. The players are under pressure on the manager, and I think what's caused frustration for me, and I think you guys are the same, and the listeners and viewers, is that the difference between you can be so good in the first half and a complete contrast is alarming, and there are mixtures, variables for that. So I think Danny Role will be a good manager, full stop. But as you said, there's that saying, you can make a million mistakes, but don't make the same one twice. So hopefully he can learn. He's gotten although it's extreme pressure, I think it's actually a good thing. He's got the same opponents at home, albeit in a different competition. And no doubt it's going to really test him, and I'm confident that he can come up with something.
Yeah. We'll go into, as I say, before we go to the games coming up and all that sort of stuff, we'll talk about the penalty. Just quickly for me, Baz, it was a penalty. I don't like the new rule. If it's accidental, it is pretty crap. And I feel bad for Sterling, but unfortunately, the rules are the rules. I don't see much point. As I said, I didn't want to talk about referees too much in this game, and I don't know if it's worth. I know some people have said they think it wasn't a penalty, or shouldn't have been, but I think in the main, most will sort of say, look, if that was the other end of the park, we'd be going mental if we hadn't got that one.
Well, do you know how you generally can tell? If you look at social media today, very few people are really harping on about it. They're not really, it's not like the Mickey Moore incident where Mickey Moore at Livingston. It hasn't got that same intensity of people crying out for it. Is it harsh on Sterling? Yes. I mean, at the end of the day, he has to elevate himself. It's very difficult to elevate yourself with your hands right against your hips. And it's a very difficult thing to do unless you're Cristiano Ronaldo or somebody, you know what I mean? So that is a difficult thing to do. So your general consensus is when you raise them up in the air, especially to get a header, your arms generally elevate. It is unfortunate. The rule is terrible. But the rules there. It is a penalty, very harshly, but it is a penalty. My problem wasn't with the handball and the penalty being given. My problem was, well, we'll talk about this shortly. My problem was what happened when the penalty was taken.
Yeah, don't worry. Don't worry. I have those pictures ready and rock on the roll for that time. But just before that, Marcus, what your thoughts, mate? Penalty? No penalty?
Yeah, I thought it was a penalty, and it was a strange quirk of fate that it was Dujon Sterling, because I thought he was outstanding in the game. It wasn't deliberate; he was just unfortunate. And I've got to be brutally honest. Again, it was unfortunate, but if that had been in the opposition penalty box, I would have thought it was a dead cert penalty in our favour. So I'm disappointed, but I think it was a penalty.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that one. And to be fair, there hasn't been anyone in the comments yet. They'll make a liar out of me. Someone will come on and say it, but so far nobody is on there going nuts about it and hasn't said a word about it yet. So we'll see. But this is what annoyed me the most, and as Baz said, and this is why I've got these pictures prepared, because this sort of summed up Rangers in the second half for me. So this was Hatate coming to take a penalty kick. Butland, who we know is good at saving penalties. Unfortunately, it seemed to be the Celtic players had more faith in Jack Butland than our own players did themselves, because when you see this next still from the save, now take a look. I want you to take a look at the left-hand side of your picture there. You see two Rangers players, a few Celtic players just in behind them, just before the ball gets kicked. And this is just after Butland makes a save. So Butland made his first save, then he's dived down. This is his second save this stills from. And you look at the difference from here to where Celtic players are and where Rangers players are, and we hit it again to here, to where Celtic players are, to where Rangers players are. So if you quickly go once more, everybody's on the line waiting for the ball to be kicked. Hatate hits his penalty. Butland gets time. This is the time this is hit a few seconds on. So Butland's dived to his right here to save it. Then he's had the dive to his left in this next still. And we have another two Celtic players in front of all those Rangers players. And obviously them guys were raring to go to come up and try and get that penalty over the line, Baz. It pretty just sums up Rangers, doesn't it? Back on the back foot the whole second half. As I say, and it's pretty frustrating to see the Celtic players how quick or desperate they were to get into that box, and had more faith in Jack Butland to save that penalty than our own team did.
Jack Butland is probably one of the best for saving penalties goalkeepers that I've actually seen. He is remarkably good at saving penalties. His actual I don't know what the percentage is, Marcus, on this, but I would say it's very high in terms of when he's faced penalties and how many he's actually saved. I would say that. And you're right. They were ready for him to save that. You can see the players' movements. They're not looking good. They're not looking at the player Hatate and going, he's putting this in the net, we're confident. They were looking at Butland and going, if he saves this, we're ready to pounce. They were ready. That was an obvious tactic that they had spoke about before the game. That if they get a penalty, and he's identified certain players, this is what you need to do. If the penalty is struck, be ready to go into the box, because this guy has a good chance of saving it, and you be ready to knock it in. And if you look at that still there, that's exactly what happens. They are rushing to the goal to get that. The desires there that they do that, and our players, they don't. If you look at the stop and start there, William, two Celtic players are behind our two players. They're both behind them. When you look at that still, our players are behind them. So the desire for us, and they know Jack Butland very well. They know he's more than capable of saving penalties. Why are they not ready for the pounce? If he does save it, are they in the box to clear? They're not there. They're nowhere to be seen. Absolutely gone in sight. Jack Butland's so unfortunate. He does really, really well, and he does his best. He saves it twice. He really does everything he can, but ultimately he couldn't do nothing with the third one. But I think that's something Danny Rowe is going to. You see them stills, William. He needs to be showing them to his players and saying to them, "Your goalkeeper, you've let your goalkeeper down here. He's done what he's had to do. He saved it twice, and when we look at that, still none of yous are anywhere near the net. You're not even close. So for me, I'm very disappointed in the players.
What's your thoughts on that, Marcus? As I say, I don't want to go on and on about it, but I just think it just sort of, as I say, I'm just looking at like Fernandez, Chukwani. You look where they are there. So by the time Butland makes, this is a second save he's making, and this next still, they're in the box a couple of yards. And as I say, there's two other Celtic players are way in there. One of them was actually, it was that close he could have actually hit the rebound in as well. I think it was Maida. When the time comes, you see where he goes. So it just shows you made the difference in urgency from them, always believing that they can get a goal and more. You know what I mean? They're always believing there's something going to happen, and they go the full 90, and maybe that's a sort of highlight of what Rangers' issues are.
Yeah, I think that it is a snapshot of the whole of the second half. The opposition being more switched on and more urgent and more eager, and I think that snapshot typifies it all, and that's something that we've just got to improve on. To say Jack Butland couldn't have done any more there. And I would have been happier even if they had scored in the third attempt, but you could see a Rangers player busting into the net and colliding with the goalpost or something, trying to get it. Then you think, well, fair enough. But that wasn't the case. And I think as I say, I think it epitomises a bit of a lapsadaisical attitude in the second half.
So we'll have a look then as the game petered out. Unfortunately, Rangers decided to put a wee bit of a fight on once we went 2-2, as we've done before. If you think of the Livingston and stuff, we start the pressure and build attacks when it's too late sometimes. But we'll take a look at the table here as it stands at the minute. So I've got Hearts there sitting first. That probably, as I say, that draw suited them better than anyone, obviously. We've got Motherwell. They just keep winning, let's be honest. They played 8 games. They were the same as us under Russell Martins. When we both had played 8 games, we'd only won 1 game and they'd only won 1 game. So if you look at their turnaround's been pretty incredible as well. So they could be right behind us here with their game in hand if they win it. Same as Celtic go above us if they win their game in hand. So looking at that table, Baz, what's your thoughts now, mate, on the whole situation and where's the belief? The problem for me is, and I'll tell you, Marcus, Baz, you can both answer this after, I believe the Rangers can get well back in this fight. I believe it. But I believe once they get there, they have the battle to stay there. That's where I'm panicking. Could we get ourselves 1 point behind Hearts or whatever in some crazy scenario? It wouldn't surprise me. But then that's where Rangers go away to, say, Falkirk and drop points or lose the match completely,
If you look at first, second, and third in particularly, the draws, there's so many draws, and that's what's killing us. The draws are absolutely killing us. The Motherwell killed us. Livingston, Celtic, draw. That does not win you league titles. It just doesn't do it. And if you look at them 3 games, we should have won. The Livingston one we had to come back from 2-0. The Motherwell game we're 1-0 up against 10 men. And yesterday we were 2-0 up at half time, playing absolutely fantastic. So again, you go down this route is the mentality there to get over the line. I'm not a big fan of the word mentality, but you can see why some people would argue on it, because the stats don't lie. We've had less wins, we've had loads of draws. We're not clinical enough to get the 3 points, and that's what that is. What ultimately will decide whether or not we're going to win this league or not. It's very, very difficult. We've played a game extra now against some of the teams, and if Motherwell win their game in hand, they are right up our asses. So same as across the city. If they win their game in hand, that will test anybody's mentality, because that if Motherwell and Celtic win their game in hand, them points are crazy. We are right in the middle of potentially finishing 4th in the league. That's crazy. That is crazy. We're closer to 4th than we are 1st. That's the reality of what could happen.
Yeah, what's your thoughts looking at it, Marcus? As I say, we're going to, because you've given us a wee graph of the fixtures, and we will chat about that as well in the next 5 minutes or so. But just looking at the table, what's your thoughts? It's it's quite incredible because Rangers could still win the league. I hope they prove us all wrong. I still believe we could win 9 games and still not win the league, if I'm telling you the God's honest truth. Just the way it's working out here. But and I hope we do win them all, obviously, and that gives us a real good chance. But still, I mean, the numbers aren't in our favour if Hearts go and win everywhere else either. But just looking at that, Marcus, you could be first place, or you could be, as Baz said, they're very easily fourth place. And I've said this time, and I was laughed at so many times. I kept saying that Motherwell team keep winning. Every time I watch that Motherwell team, they're fantastic. The best football side in this country. They're not out of anything yet. And a lot of people would laugh and say, "Don't bring Motherwell into it. Don't bring." And I'm sitting going, "Well, they're winning every week, you know what I mean? And they haven't lost. I think they've lost one match out of their last 20 or something. So they, and they win this game in hand here, Marcus. They're well in this, like."
Yeah, before I talk about Celtic and Rangers Hearts, so I think Motherwell, I wouldn't be surprised if I don't think they'll win the league, but I wouldn't be surprised if they feature in the top 3 there, second and third at all. I really wouldn't be surprised. They've crept up. They're playing really well. As far as we're concerned, it's remarkable we've only lost 2 games, but as Baz alluded to, the amount of draws is remarkable. I'm confident with the 9 games left and the 27 points. I'm confident that we won't, or we might not even get beaten full stop. But that is the ultimate lie detector: is the draw. Will we win? And we've just got to win. I'm confident that we won't. Hopefully, won't. I'm not saying we're not going to incur a loss in 9 games, but I think it's highly unlikely. But we've just got to start winning, and that's the question mark I have. And we look at the fixtures that that there will be other teams on a Sunday night. We're looking at it. We'll look at it now on a Sunday evening in which teams will gain points, lose points. And again, looking at that graph, these are the pre-fixtures before the split. Motherwell in the red there, Celtic away, Hearts away. Obviously, that is going to be significant, whatever happens there. And we've got to concentrate on ourselves. We've just got to get 12 points, I think, full stop. So there will be changes. I'm just not worried about losing, but I just question whether we can, including the split, just go on and win and put ourselves into a position. There's no question about it. Hearts are in a great position now. And we talk about pressure and mentality. I think a lot of it is going to depend on that for them. But we've got to concentrate on ourselves, win as many as possible. If the other people knock each other about and lose points here, then that can go in our favour, providing we win.
I think the biggest thing, Baz, looking at all this, to go in our favour, and I'll say the same to Marcus, is that they have Hearts and Celtic both have to play Motherwell twice again. We have to play them once. We have them at, we'll have them at in the split. I think we have them at Ibrox because I think it's going to be Easter Road we're going to. I think that's what the chat is anyway, but that's not confirmed. Celtic will have to play Motherwell very soon here, as will Hearts. And they both have to go away to Motherwell in a split because they've only been to Fir Park. I think both of them have only been to Fir Park once this season, so they'll have to play Fir Park away, both of them, Celtic and Hearts, I think, by the way it goes. So they're going to drop points. But again, I look at Falkirk away and I think, can I trust that Rangers team to go and win that? I don't know. Can I trust that Rangers team to go to St Mirren and do what Motherwell done and hammer them 5-0 easy peasy and went down the road? Do I see Rangers doing that with Stephen Robinson being the manager who's caught us out a few times with like Zagogis bullying us and stuff, and this is where the questions are for Rangers. And Marcus makes a great point. Hearts will drop points here or there, Celtic will drop points here and there, Motherwell will drop points here and there, but all 3 of them will probably drop points when they play each other. That's what's going to happen. That's one of them have to drop points or both in all them games. But do you trust Rangers to go and win? Because every time we've been saying this last few months, Baz, if we could only get a run together, but we just can't seem to. We get it going, we pedal to the metal, and then the engine stalls, and then we're trying to kickstart the thing and go again, but you don't win leagues that way, Baz.
You don't. I mean, we played Hearts a couple of weeks ago and beat them 4-2. and you're thinking there was the moment, there was the moment to turn things around. Hearts took that defeat not in chin and have went back out again and started winning, and that shows you that shows you their winning mentality. Because yes, they understood they got, Rangers played very well in that game. We had to come back twice, but we actually overall we played very well in that game. But Hearts have produced the goods, and they keep doing it as well. They're like Motherwell at the minute. They're going to these teams that we seem to struggle against, and they're pumping them, they're beating them. Or okay, Hearts maybe won a couple of 1-0s, but they're winning, and they know how to close games out, and that's what Hearts are doing at the minute. When you look at that graph, William, in Hearts' first 3 games of their next 3 games, where do you see Hearts dropping points? I can see Hearts taking 9 points out of 9 there. The way they're playing and the way they're closing games down, I don't see Kilmarnock, Dundee, or Livingston causing Hearts too many problems. And I would, if I was a Hearts supporter, I'd be expecting 9 points. And by the way, there's every chance that they'll do that. The game will be the Motherwell game. That's the game that could hurt Hearts. But the first 3, for me, looking at the points and looking at the games ahead, that's quite frightening that Hearts have them 3, because Hearts, they're all struggling. Them 3 teams are all struggling, and and Hearts could do it. Or look at ours. You're right there. I was see when you mentioned about Motherwell beating St Mirren 5-0. I was looking at that fixture thinking the same thing. I was thinking, are we going to go to St Mirren and win 5-0? Do we have it?
No.
Do we have it in us to go and do that? And that's my worry. But Hearts will look at Kilmarnock away, and that they'll not think like that. Their fans won't be thinking like we think. They'll be going, Kilmarnock away, boom, we're playing well, we'll go and smash them. No problem. Even if it's a 1-0, we'll get the goal, we'll close up shop, get the 3 points. And that's the difference between the 2 teams. Hearts have that belief that they can do it, and we're not sure. We are not sure. And I think that's where the 2 teams differ. If Motherwell will decide things. They will decide things. They do play Hearts. They do play the Evans across the city. They may take points off both of them. It's very possible. They may not. They you know what I mean? They may not do that as well. But it's difficult. The Falkirk away match for me is a difficult one. That's a game for us again, like an away to Livy, away to Kilmarnock. They're the games that we seem to have problems with. So it's going to be very interesting the next 3 or 4 games.
Yeah, well, I'm a bit. Well, I think Hearts can go away to Kilmarnock and drop points. The only reason I'm saying that is because, but then a lot of things have changed. And I get what you're saying, Baz, because they are all in dogfights. If you look at their first 3 games, you're 100%, and they could go there and win all those, tick them off, because they're ticking off every other game. Let's be honest. But the likes of Kilmarnock, they've got a change in management, obviously, with Billy Dodds and Neil McCann there, and they have played a wee bit better. Livingston are playing better now since their new managers come in. They're actually, but they're not saying they're getting wins, but there's a few draws and stuff a bit better than what they were doing. But it's all hope, isn't it, Marcus, really? There's nothing there to base it on. It's blind faith, really, at this stage, isn't it, for us? And even as Baz says, if, say, they do lose to Kilmarnock and, the Celtic and Motherwell take a draw, you're looking at Rangers, and can you be confident Rangers goes and gets 12 points out of those next 4 games? And they could beat St Mirren, and they could beat Aberdeen, and then we could fall at Ibrox at Dundee United. It just wouldn't surprise me with this Rangers team, Marcus.
Yeah, I think in a way it's good that we're not engaged with those other teams at all before the split. So we've just got to concentrate on ourselves and got to win them. And I'm hoping that, particularly with the away games, which we've been a bit insipid, really, the way we've approached them with the urgency, and that there's only 9 games left, it's ticking down. I hope that we can approach those in a very similar vein with regard to formation and personnel, and really go on the front foot and don't worry about anybody else. And then the split is a natural time to actually have a look and see what happens. And again, if we can get 12 points, then maybe things will be looking a lot better. I just think it's as simple as that. We've just got to concentrate on what we can do and be positive, particularly in the games away from home.
Yeah, as I said, it's going to be tough, I'm just looking at it now. If we were to get all 12 points there, Baz, and just say, out of some scenario, say Hearts were to lose at Kilmarnock and and to lose at Motherwell, Tynecastle, you're still sitting there. You're only level with them. I mean, even that's hoping Rangers take 12, and that's hoping they drop 6. I mean, it doesn't look like it's going to happen to me. But then another part of me worries is now, guys. I don't know what your thoughts on this. A part of me is going, I can't believe we're in this position, but a part of me is going, do I want Hearts to drop any points now? Because now I'm scared because I have so little faith in us going to win the league. I'm like, if Hearts dropping points helps the other side win the league, and that's even worse. I mean, so it's just a crazy scenario, isn't it?
It's a terrible conundrum to have. It's a terrible thought to have, that you're praying that one team will win the league over the other, and it's not yourself. That's quite crazy. Do you actually think like that? But it's just where we are. And the reason why that confidence is like that, William, is because we've alluded to it earlier in the show. Away to Livy, away to Motherwell, and yesterday. There's 3 key games that, where we should have had 9 points, and we only have
away to Hibs, Baz. Away to Hibs again.
Away to Hibs. Sorry, Hibs as well. So there's 4 points out of 12.
And that's the difference between you going top of the league and being where we are.
That's what I'm saying. If you look at that week leading up that we were playing Hearts, we had the Livingston game. No, sorry, who was it? Who did we have during the week?
So basically, the way we looked at it was, if you looked after the Motherwell game at the time, you went there and got a win. You were getting into that game against Hearts, and if you win there, you were joint top of them, I think it was the time. That was what it was. So Rangers failed at Hibs. We had a chance basically going into them. We were all thinking, here, if we tick these games off, we're going in level with Hearts into that game. And then that's a pressure on them. But we already let them off because we lost it, or we couldn't get the points at Hibs. So we knew even if you win against Motherwell, you couldn't catch them at that stage, you know what I mean, before you played them. So then you're thinking, well, if you just beat Motherwell and you just beat Hearts, then you're going the Ibrox, the pressure's on them because you're joint with them. Again, we failed at Motherwell. Then it came to the stage was, right, okay, so we can't catch Hearts. We can't go above them or catch them at Ibrox, but we can close the gap at them a wee bit. And we did that. Then we done the third thing that we didn't want to do was go into that scenario. But at the end of the day, we won on the day, and you're going, okay, well, look, maybe that'll put the pressure. And then straight away, you're playing Livy, you draw again, a team that has won 1 game all season. And then you're going again thinking, right, well, that's another slip up. But if we win the next 10, maybe that'll put pressure. Then you go 2-0 up against Celtic. You're going, and everything's amazing. And you throw that away. You know what I mean? And that's not going to win you a league title.
And no, it doesn't. I mean, if you look at the game against Hearts, Hearts was the only physical game that we had control over gaining points on Hearts. That was the only game, because when you're only relying on results outside that every week. But Hearts was the game where we could have went, if we take 3 points off you and we win today, that's in our hands. But if you look at the other games where Hearts have been winning and we've dropped the points, the Hibs, the Motherwell, the Livingston, and yesterday, that's what worries me about this team lifting a league title, because that form cannot continue. It's impossible to do that. We need to win. We need to win ugly sometimes. We've talked about this before. It doesn't always have to be pretty. It was pretty yesterday in the first half. It was fantastic. Hearts went 2-0 up against Emmons in their own ground. But what did they do? They ground out the result. They came out with the 3 points against them because they defended well. They had a good team ethics and they knew how to close the game out. We went 2-0 up yesterday and we couldn't do it. Those signs aren't good. And the problem is it's too repetitive. And that's what's costing us. It's far too often. It's not like it's one draw every 3 or 4 games. It's becoming a draw too regular.
Well, Marcus, to say we're coming towards the end there, we're getting to that hour, but just your final thoughts, mate, on what's your thoughts now for going into the game v them? Like I say, we'll park the league for now because it's obviously Scottish Cup weekend coming up, and we know the crack. We'll see how the league goes, and hopefully, listen, we're coming on a few shows time. We're all smiling, going, "Oh, everything's failing perfectly for us," but it's not in our hands anymore, unfortunately. But Marcus, what's your thoughts, Scottish Cup then? You hoping to see something a bit different anyway, mate? Result-wise, definitely, but hopefully performance-wise too. Maybe a full 90 minutes of playing well.
Yeah, hopefully a full 90 minutes of the first half would be great. I don't think the personnel needs to change too much. I just think the mentality and the approach. So that's what I'd go for. And also, I actually think it's really important. We could mathematically still win the league, but I think it's going to be really difficult. And I just feel it's really important that we win something this year, and this represents a great opportunity. So I know some people think, well, not really too bothered about it. It's the league. Of course, the league's the priority, but I think if we can come away and win some silverware this season, I just think it's really, really important. The whole context of everything changes. So I think on that alone, not just the fact we're playing Celtic, the fact it's an opportunity to win a trophy is enormous. And again, it adds pressure. So again, the players are going to have that plus a bigger away support as well. So I think it's a really important game for different reasons.
What about yourself, Baz? Then let's say it's
Well,
it's one of those ones at the minute, because we're so down, and we are. I know, because we live and breathe it. And you get, when Rangers are going bad, it's a kick in the stomach. Let's be honest, we all know that. But I say, as the game starts to come close, Baz, we'll dust ourselves down, and obviously the buzz will come again. But it's an important one, because the league, as say, it's not in our hands anymore. When it's the percentages aren't greatest, but it's still there to do it. But you want to win you want to win something at least, and the Scottish Cup's the one that is in our own hands right now as it speaks.
it's a Scottish Cup. Come Sunday, we will not have forgotten yesterday. That's not going to happen. We won't forget it. But what we'll do is it'll be a new dawn on Sunday. It's an Old Firm semi-final, huge, massive game at Ibrox. Slightly different twist to it, that the fact that they're getting a full stand, that will make things slightly different at Ibrox next Sunday than compared to yesterday. But we'll see what next Sunday does. It gives these players an opportunity to right the wrongs of yesterday. And that's what the players that's what they need to be thinking about all week. And that's what Danny Role needs to be instilling in the players. Yesterday wasn't great. We should have won the game. We should have been better. But here's your chance to show those supporters that you've learned from last week, and you're going to do it. I mean, it's the slogan at the minute, William, is full voice, full house, full 90. Well, the players need to give the full 90. And that's, and that's what has to happen. Right the wrongs from last week and give the Rangers fans something to celebrate next Sunday, and then you can look forward to a cup final. That would certainly ease the pain of what we endured yesterday, and that's the best thing that I can say to them. That it's up to the players to give the Rangers fans that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And as I say, look, the fans get a bit of sick. We're too quick sometimes to, during matches and stuff, to put the head down and stuff. But at the end of the day, as Baz just said there, and I agree with you, Baz, it's up to the players as well. The players, we feed off what the players are giving us, and when start to retreat and surrender 2-0 leads, you're not going to sit there and happy clap it. People's going to be disgruntled, because we've seen it time and time again. But hopefully, as you guys say, look, we'll try and do a pre-match show again, because the last one was really, really good, actually. The support was absolutely fantastic. So we'll see if we can get a few available. I'll not confirm that yet until I get chatting to the lads after, and we'll see what people's times availability and stuff is. And we'll see if we can get another show sorted during the week, and then a pre-match show. We'll see what we're going to do with that. But thank you, everyone, for watching us as normal. Really appreciate it. As we're up to first time ever, just to be a bit of a thing, we're first time ever getting 7 million views in 28 days. We've been close. We've hit 6.6 million and stuff, but now we're up to 7 million views in the last 20 days on our Facebook page, which is absolutely incredible. So thank you, everyone who's on the Facebook page, sharing stuff, commenting. And as the guys have said, Marcus, Baz, appreciate you coming on. Thanks again. And listen, we know, kick in the stomach for now, that's the way it goes. But listen, that's it. You win on Sunday, we'll be bouncing again and getting carried away of ourselves. And, and that's the way it goes. That's what it's all about when you support Rangers. But we just hope for a wee bit more saddle, when you're winning the game 2-0, if something's going bad, just get the heads together on the pitch. That's all you want. Some leadership and grind it out, but you never know. Maybe that can happen for us, and we hope it does. But thanks, everyone, for listening to us tonight, and we'll be speaking to you again very soon. Just keep an eye on our socials, and we'll let you know any shows that are coming up again. Cheers, guys. Bye.